You are valuable. You are more than capable of creating products and services that people will be willing to pay for and buy and make the world a better place by doing that. You don't have to accept the situation that you're in. Everyone has a skill which, if they made it publicly available, people are willing to pay for it. Success for me is just being able to wake up every day alive, healthy, breathe the air, see the sun coming in through the window, and to broadly get to spend my day and my time doing things I enjoy with people that I care about and that I love.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Need to Succeed podcast. Like we always say on here, this is all about having incredible conversations with great entrepreneurs and individuals, and just to understand what does it take to become successful, whatever that means to you. Because here's what happens. Two people can go through the exact same situation. One person decides because of that situation, they can no longer achieve the things that they want to achieve in life. The other person, based on the same situation, decides that they have to achieve everything that they've ever wanted to achieve in life. Same situation, different outcome. What is the difference in mindset between these two people? That's exactly what we look to uncover on this podcast. And today, we have an absolutely incredible guest. When it comes to success, when it comes to mindset of how to handle money, your finances, investments, there is no one better. Very, very eloquent, very, very well spoken in this subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. MoneyJar himself.
Thank you so much for that intro.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah. Felt like you weren't talking about me.
You're like, who's this guy? Like, who is it? Yeah. I mean, honestly, bro, it's such honor to have you in here. I know we had this arranged a little while ago, but it's like, I think it was almost like 2 months ago we had this booked in. I've been waiting this long to have you in here.
Yeah. We met at the KBM Wealth Conference.
That's right, yes.
Shout out Mike.
Yes, big shout out to Mike.
And yeah, we just connected, and thank you for inviting me on.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure, and I'm genuinely really looking forward to this conversation. But what I have kept from you is that we've got a tradition on this podcast.
Okay.
Yes. There's 2 set questions, and those are the only 2 set questions. There's the first and the last one.
All right.
So the very first question is, what does success actually mean to you?
Yeah. It's a big question. It's an important question. And my definition of success has changed over the course of my life. So when I was much younger, maybe teenage years, early 20s, my definition of success was just the quintessential definition: money, beautiful girl on your arm, all that sort of thing. And I think that's all fine. If you want that, it's fine. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that you can have all that stuff and you can still feel unfulfilled. You can still feel unhappy. Also, I've learned about self-love and the importance of not tying your success to the things that you do, and instead tying your success to the sort of person that you are. So right now, success for me is just being able to wake up every day alive, healthy, breathe the air, see the sun coming in through the window, and to broadly get to spend my day and my time doing things I enjoy with people that I care about and that I love. That's success to me.
Wow. Powerful, bro. Powerful. I said you were very eloquent, and you've just very eloquently explained that.
Yeah.
Because that is quite, what you've just, explained is actually quite, it can be quite complicated, right? Because, you've spoken about, wanting the beautiful chick and, having this money and financial freedom and all this sort of stuff, right? But, you get to a certain point when, and it might be difficult for some people to hear and say, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You want to wake up and all of these sort of things. But, it gets to a certain point when you have a certain realization, maybe when you've made this money and you think, well, like, if this is what I'm chasing,
yeah,
why do I have this? And I still feel like I'm yearning for something else, right?
Money is very, very important. Like, let's be real. We live in a capitalist culture, capitalist society. and it goes deeper than that. Your ability to make money or not will determine your ability to have the bare essentials in life, to put a roof over your head, to be able to eat. And so you need to have money. But there's a distinction between the importance of money and tying your sense of self-worth or your ideas around success to it. Because actually, if you are able to offer value to society, if you're able to do something a bit different, you will make money, but you need to be that person first. If you make the money, you are that person all along. It's just that people are realizing it. If you do it the other way around, if you tie your success to the amount of money that you're making, okay, so if you have a bad year, you make half the money. Are you half as successful now? I don't believe that's the case. I think it's about who you are as a person.
Powerful, bro. Love that. Okay, cool. Well, let's get to find out a bit more about you as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because honestly, bro, I love the stuff that you do. And you're helping a lot of people.
Trying
with the
to.
information, bro. You are. You are. So that's incredible. But I know you didn't just wake up as Mr. MoneyJar. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a journey. And so I just want to really understand that. So for the audience watching and thinking, okay, cool, look, Tim is doing this, and I think you just told me you just come from a clear score event.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big names. I see you doing big things bigger than that. Yeah, what's going on, right? So, but how did let's before your journey started, who was Timi back in school?
Oh, right. Well, in a way, I was similar in school to how I am now. At school, I think I was a bit of a know-it-all. I was like very academic, really enjoyed tests and exams and reading and stuff. And there were some schools, particularly around primary school age, where that I became the subject of teasing and stuff. But then as I got to secondary school and so on, I was more in a type of school where being academically minded was celebrated and doing well was celebrated. So I was a know-it-all back then. I took a lot of pride in, being intellectual and asking questions and stuff. And I sometimes say to people now, I'm a professional know-it-all. In many ways, I feel like a lot of the stuff that would maybe get me teased and stuff when I was back in school is part of the reason why I now make money. So just do your thing. And if it's valuable, then the rewards will come.
I'm so glad you said that, because as you were saying, this is exactly what was going through my mind. So I will ask the question anyway, which is, that's not the sort of what was the best way to put this? It's not the sort of thing that will make you popular in school, right? Should I say that?
Depending on the type of school you go to. I went to a state primary school.
Yeah.
So it was like you'd be way better off being better at football.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
So how did you marry that? Because what I've noticed in your content and in just speaking to you, a couple of times I've met you, and even just now we spoke just before, is you are very confident and comfortable in your own skin. And I feel like, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I feel like from what you've just said that you've just always been that way. How do you marry that with an environment that wasn't encouraging that at the time? How did you deal with those times?
People say this to me a lot. People say I come across as confident, I come across as calm. And maybe externally I come across that way. But I do have my moments where I lack confidence, where I become nervous. Even the talk I just gave now, I felt fine until I sat down and I was on stage. And I just got hit with these nerves because it was an industry event. And I realized, wow, this is a serious audience. Like, I need to really bring it. And actually, there was a point during the talk where what I like to do is I like to pour water for myself and for the person who's sitting next to me, just so that it's done, because there's normally a jug and glass on the table. And during the talk, I actually reached for my glass. My hand was shaking a bit too much. I was like, no, let me just
put that down quickly.
Yeah. I don't know whether people notice that or not. So how do you have confidence? You gain confidence through a number of different things. You gain confidence, firstly, through knowledge. The reason why I am able to cross the street, for example, the reason why I'm not nervous and quivering is because I've done it before many, many times. So by the time I go to do it again, I just have this backlog in my head of like, this is something that I know how to do. I know how to do this. If you're doing something for the first time, you probably will lack confidence in it, but you're doing it for the very, very first time. So developing a mindset or a learning mindset and a growth mindset is really, really important for building confidence. We have growth mindsets when we're children. No child just starts walking from day one. You walk, you trip, you stumble and stuff. And children are really good at not being so good at things and growing and learning. But I guess as you become an adult, life kind of kicks you in the butt a little bit. And you've got social media and you've got peer pressure, and that's what encourages and that can make you feel like you should be doing better than you should. So confidence is built through being knowledgeable. But I also think that confidence is built through having a goal or a mission that's bigger than yourself. So actually, when I'm in those settings, like the talk you were just talking about, and I'm feeling nervous, I remind myself why I'm here. What am I there to do? And the thing is, at this moment in time, the thing that I seem to be offering a lot of value around is financial education. It's just that one thing. I have other interests, I have other things I'm able to do, but for whatever reason, when I speak about money, when I talk about financial education, people listen. So I really get into that mindset of I'm here to help people and they want to listen to me talk. That also helps with confidence as well. Having a mission and a purpose.
Absolutely. But, 'cause I'm not going to let you get away with it. Yeah. Going back to when you're in primary school.
Sure.
Right. So let's say there's there's a young kid watching this right now, and they value the intellect, they value being able to challenge the teachers intellectually, challenge their peers intellectually, but it's not making them very popular.
Yeah.
How do they still carry that confidence and stay in that power without feeling like maybe I should just succumb to all of this peer pressure and just act like everyone else?
Yeah, it's really tough when you're young. I have really, really clear memory of being that age. And also I have a brother who's still at school. So I hear from him about how it is and stuff. I think one of the things that you lack when you're a young person is perspective. So the first 18 years of your life are your whole life, right? But I'm 33 now, so I have an additional 15. I know that life goes on. I know that the people, so to the young people listening, the people that are teasing you now, you may never ever see or talk to them again. And actually, if you can just, like with investing, if you can develop a passion for something or a purpose or even just a mindset or a way of being from early, by the time you get to our age, you're going to be unstoppable because you're going to be this person that's just been steadfast from very, very early on. A lot of the people that you see in the world today that are achieving success, whether it be my definition or the conventional definition, they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time and they've just been focusing on that. And that's the advantage you have when you're young. You can start early at something and just keep working at it.
Powerful. So true as well. Perspective is, you're hitting it on the head.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So moving from that primary school, so you said you went into a more conducive environment, based on your personality type. How do you feel that helped, if at all?
Secondary school was great for me. I mean, all my closest friends I went to secondary school with, we still all talk today. We're all in a WhatsApp group together. I don't have so many friends from university, or I didn't, but actually through Mr. MoneyJar, I've rekindled and reconnected with a lot of those people as well. I went to Warwick University. So yeah, secondary school was really important to me. I went to two. I went to Dulwich College, which is a private secondary school. And then I went to Wellington County Grammar School, which, grammar school. And those environments were ones in which if you were good at a subject, then you tended to be encouraged both by your teachers and by your peers as well. I have a couple of teachers who like and comment on my LinkedIn posts. It's really cool. They were great, yeah.
That's really cool. Imagine that, your teachers commenting on your post. Some kids will be livid. They will be really, really embarrassed by that.
Yeah. I hope it makes them Mr. and Mrs. Edmonds. I hope that they realize that they are part of who I am today, the man I am today.
Have you ever told them that?
Not explicitly, but you know what? That's a good point. I should tell them that. I should make that explicit. I should give people their flowers while they're still here, right?
Because listen, teachers, you don't hear many people saying, I like my teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Teachers get a bad rap generally. So the good ones, which there are.
Yeah.
Because, I think I mentioned about being homeless to you just before we started. And, the person who I reached out to in that moment was just that one teacher. I was like, this guy always had my back, even when I was an idiot in school. He just always told me, like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you have got so much potential. So he was the one that I reached out to, and he was the one that helped me through that situation and got me back, on the right track. So the good ones, we should really, shower them with praises so they know.
I agree. That's a good principle in life. We're very quick to complain and tell people when we don't like them, but we should tell people when we like and or love them as well.
100%. Cool, man. So you mentioned you went to uni in Warwick.
Yeah.
What did you study?
I studied law like a good Nigerian boy.
It was even now medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, doctor.
Yeah,
doctor or lawyer. Yeah, okay.
I didn't enjoy it.
No.
I didn't enjoy it. But, you connect the dots looking backwards. It was a valuable experience, even though I didn't enjoy the subject. I obviously learned things legally that I use today. There's a lot of contracts in my job. There's a lot of attention to detail and that sort of thing. I obviously made relationships and connections. And there's also the huge passive benefit of university, of flying the nest for the first time and living as a young adult. Truth be told, I actually spent a lot of uni running a business. One of my first businesses was a graphic design company. And I'd make flyers and logos for ACSs all over the country.
Nice.
And that's how I paid for, my rent, my eating costs, particularly in second year.
Interesting. Two things I wanted to touch about, but I'll just stick on this point now just because you've just made it. So you got a graphics design company. You're based in Warwick.
Yeah.
You obviously know how to market because you're working with universities, across the country. But why did you niche down to, the ACS community specifically? For those who don't know what ACS is, the African Caribbean Society, right?
Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those were I think uni is just you I'm just remembering
some crazy shit you did at uni now, right?
No, I'm remembering one of my first law lectures, and we're a minority in this country anyway, and then you're at uni, you're a minority and stuff. I just remember at the end, a guy called Michael Odunlemi. I don't know if he remembers me or not, but we were sitting in opposite ends of the lecture hall, and at the end, he made a beeline for me and came to shake my hand. And I think it's just yeah, you're black, you're from London. There's got to be a common thread. Let's chat.
Let's connect.
So there was a lot of that at the time of just so happened to be the community of people that I fell into. I didn't just speak to black people at university. I had lots of different types of relationships and friends and stuff, but those were the main events that I went to and hung out with.
Yeah. Listen, it's natural, bro. It's natural. It's communities. It's one of those things that I don't want to go down this land of conversation, but it is very, very strange when the way people look at race relations, because naturally as humans, we actually do naturally congregate with those who look like us and who have similar. It's actually very, very natural. But obviously, it becomes a convoluted conversation when you start taking into account the history of race, transatlantic slavery, what's happened to all of. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So when you start bringing all of this into that, all of a sudden it's should we be a community? Should we not be?
But you know what? I don't even think it was just about being black. I think it was even more specific than that. I think it was about coming from London. There are a lot of people from London in the ACS. And then the international students who came in from Nigeria were culturally very different to us. They're from a completely different cultural context.
Good point. Very good point, actually. But those nuances are missed if you don't know. We know, right? But if you don't know, you guys are black. So black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You is the same.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. So uni, did you feel like it was a culturally enriching experience for you? What would you say was the best part of uni for you?
Yeah. I'll be real with you. I didn't have a good time at uni. I had major depression at uni. Like I said, I had relationships with people, but I didn't make as many friends as I should have. I didn't really go to as many lectures as I should have. In fact, in my third year, I had to take time out from uni, thanks to a wonderful woman in the pastoral care department in the humanities faculty called Helen Toner. She granted me time out at the end of my second term to take time out from my third year of uni and then return in the fourth year at the start of second term, because it was April 2010 and April 2011, and I was literally staring down the barrel of my third year exams, hadn't been to any lectures, hadn't studied at all, and I just had to reach out and be like, do you know what, I can't do these exams. If I do them, I'm gonna fail. And she gave me that time off. So I actually left university at the end of my second term in third year, and I came back in what was my fourth year of uni at the start of second term, and I lived with first years. So I was just this 21-year-old guy,
this old guy who didn't want to party anymore.
This OG, yeah, wearing slippers, yeah. With all these 18-year-olds that had been at university for one term, and that was really fun. They were like really cool. Again, I'm friends with a lot of those people to this day. It's really interesting, like meeting someone when they're 18 years old, and then now they're like 30 and they have like gray hairs and stuff. But yeah, no, that was a good time.
Amazing. What do you think brought on the depression?
Yeah, I've not spoken about this publicly before, but I'm happy to do so here. I think on the one hand, my baseline experience of life, I think, tends towards the negative. And so looking after my mental health is actually very important. I think some people are just naturally very bouncy and upbeat, but I think I tend to overthink things a lot, and then I can end up down rabbit holes and thought spirals. So I think there's a little bit of internal wiring there. Things help. Being out with people helps. Doing stuff, particularly for other people, helps. Sleeping well, eating well, looking after your health, all these things help. And these are tools and strategies that I've had to develop. Actually, I also think that I probably have seasonal affective disorder. I can get very down in the winter when there's no sun. Like when it gets to 4 p.m. and it's dark, my brain thinks it's time to go to bed. I actually get tired and lose energy. And when I look back at uni, that's when term starts. Term starts when the clocks go back in October. And I think that affected me too. And university was the first time in my life, I guess, where I was an adult and I just there's not that many contact hours at uni versus at school. And I had a lot of time to just sit down and think and ruminate in my thoughts. I went through a lot of life changes at that point in time. At the end of a major relationship, my high school relationship, I was raised Christian, but I identify as agnostic now. So I had a change in my religious outlook on life, and I just wasn't enjoying my course. So I think all those different factors came together, and it meant I became quite reclusive during that time. But yeah, we're talking like a decade and a half ago. Since then, I've been able to work on things and get back to who I really am. And Mr. MoneyJar is a big part of that.
Mr. MoneyJar, that's such a good name. We're going to come on to that. That's such a big name. But that stuff you're talking about, that seasonal stuff, I'm not going to say who it is. I don't want to expose them if they don't want it to be exposed. But I know someone who has that stuff. I think there's like things like these actual lights now that you can...
I have one. I've made content about it. If you suffer from seasonal affective disorder, or if you just get down when the sun's not there, because I don't have a formal diagnosis or anything, sad lamps, a medically certified sad lamp, can help you get it in your eyeballs first thing in the morning. One of the most important things you do in the morning is get sunlight or light from a sad lamp in your eyes. It tells your brain it's time to wake up now.
That's circadian rhythm or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Multivitamins, sleeping on time, drinking less alcohol, like all these things, because alcohol disrupts your sleep. All these things are and it's not a health podcast, but these are just all things I've picked up over time.
Yeah.
Where my sleep is like way, way better than it used to be. Way better.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that light thing because I didn't even know you had it, but yeah, clearly I'm guessing it is the same
It
thing
works.
because that light thing is what they were telling me. Yeah.
Between October and March, I have light for breakfast.
Yeah, wake up light. Amazing, man. Cool, bro. So uni obviously wasn't a great of experiences. You just touched on Mr. MoneyJar really kind of helping you, I guess, channel some of this energy and these thoughts. You spoke about religion. I went through a very, very similar path myself. People say my name, that Ibrahim, are you Muslim? No, that's my dad's, but I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mom.
I love that you said that, man, because I made that assumption.
Yeah. Everyone, look, it's Ibrahim. Come on, it's an obvious assumption.
Yeah.
But then I grew up from my mom's side of the family who are Christian, so I was actually raised a Christian, a Catholic, right? Christian initially, but I also got to a point when I'm like, I don't really know about all this stuff, right?
Really?
Yeah. So
I made so many, not negative ones, but I just made a bunch of. This is why it's good to talk. I made a bunch of assumptions. So I mean, you're the interviewer here, but like, why? Yeah, why? What made you think? Okay, I maybe don't, because I think there's God.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
That's why we're agnostic, right?
Yeah,
I've got a personal relationship. I'm sure you meditate. I meditate. All of that, right? So I've got a spiritual connection to God. I think for me, maybe coming from a religious background, it's difficult for me to believe there is no God. It's real. I'm like, there's got to be, right? For me, but it's just about how the relationship works. But I think for me, the more, I wouldn't say intelligence, but the more I looked into things, the more educated I became. Right, the more I research stuff, and when I'm looking at my own lived and personal experience, I'm looking at other people who are religious, and I'm looking at some of the character traits and the behaviors, and I'm trying to marry these two things. And I'm looking at this scripture, and the more educated you become, the more you realize, okay, this were written by people. And when I'm looking at people today, people can be quite devious, they can be quite deceitful, or people maybe not even devious or deceitful. They're just writing maybe from their own perspective, their viewpoints, and it doesn't actually have to be scripture and things like this. And so I start looking at it from a different context and say, actually, you know what? Why does that have to be? Then you start asking questions, right?
I was going to say, I would say that I have a questioning mind. So rather than jump to a conclusion and say, oh, God is this or God is that, there's this, there's that. Do I think that there's a creator and an uncaused cause? Probably. Because when you actually look at the design of the universe, there's a fastest that stuff can travel. There's a hottest that thing could go. Matter attracts matter. Like, we're not just like floating and stuff. So there are actual laws of physics that work. And it's not just random, right? But in terms of like, God is this or God is that, like, I'm still asking those questions, particularly as someone who's of Nigerian heritage. Raised in a Christian family, we know that there are many different religions in Nigeria, but like there's a mainly Islamic contingent in the north, and then in the south you have Christians. But 90% of all of the Christianity that's in the African continent at the moment has emerged there over the last 100 years. I know you had Christianity in Ethiopia in 4 AD, but I'm like, what were we doing before that?
Just living in the jungle, bro.
We were just dancing.
Yeah, we're in the jungle, just living like animals, bro. You know this.
Like because what's very interesting is if you look at Rishi Sunak's wrist, he wears that red bracelet, and I don't know what the specific religious significance of that bracelet is, but when you look at Hinduism, you have 4,000 years of culture and of religious history to go back on. Where's our 4,000 years? What were we doing 4,000 years ago? I'm not saying I have the answers, but those are the sorts of questions I ask.
Yeah, it does hurt me. And I listened to a couple of different podcasts, and I don't know if you know, what's his name now? I forgot this guy's name. But yeah, there's African spirituality. Even if we're looking at Ife in Nigeria, right? Olodumare.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, bro, we have spirituality anyway. So, but even that, I'm not saying, oh yeah, that's the religion. No, I'm like, cool, that's another religion.
Yeah.
Why does Christianity supersede that? And if we think, before transatlantic slavery, before colonization, we didn't even know who Jesus is. All of a sudden, we've got this white guy who was meant to have come and saved us. It's like, hang on, but you weren't here before these people came over. All of us, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
we also had other religions. We were believing in something else. So
Yeah.
for me, it's difficult to now think, oh, that's now the standard and that's the only thing. Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so much you can say about like the link between the British Empire and the Roman Empire before it, and the spread of religion. But where I'm at right now is my sense is it is analogous to language. So it's like if you leave a bunch of people somewhere, they're gonna develop a language. They're not just gonna speak to each other in unintelligible grunts. Different people develop. So you got the alphabet over here, and if you go to Southeast Asia, you have like more like symbols and stuff, and then you go to Russia, there's a different. So like they're different, and hieroglyphics and stuff. So there does seem to be this proclivity to develop language within the human psyche, but that doesn't mean that English is like the right one. It's just a way of speaking to people. Equally, when you look at different religions, there are like threads that run between all of them. Different human beings over different space of time have come to conclusion that, hey, maybe we're not the only stuff here. Maybe we're not the only people here. Maybe we came from something.
What's up there?
Yeah. And they got curious and they told stories and they developed moral principles out of it as well. I'm completely behind that. But to just be like, yeah, Christianity is right, but that religion is wrong, I'm not that far along yet. But some people are, and that's fine.
I mean, even if we do look at the two main religions right now, which is Islam and Christianity, how many factions are within them? So does that make sense? So what's the thing? Okay, cool. Before that, there was other religions, and now, as people, let's say someone from another 100, 200 years, how many other religions are they going to have to contend with, right? To consider. So yeah, exactly. So this were some of the questions that I was asking myself. But cool, we digress. So uni was uni. Or apart from the difficult period you had anyway, you also mentioned you didn't actually want to do law, in the first place, right?
I didn't know.
But you graduated, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah, you graduated from law. So you come out now, you've had 4 years of hell, doing something you didn't want to do. Now you've graduated. What next?
Yeah, so I did my first internships were in marketing and PR companies. And so the other thing is I graduated with a 2-2. And so at the time, there was a huge emphasis on having a 2-1 or a first to be able to get into the top employers. But I graduated with a 2-2. And so I had to be a bit more clever, a bit more smart about how I got into the jobs market. So that was through the internship way. I did an internship with marketing companies. I think that's just where my interest lay. I thought that there was maybe a link between that and, like the design work I was doing and stuff. And my first job was at a financial PR company. And I had a fantastic manager at the time who I recently discovered I live like 3 minutes away from. So we just ended up in the same part of the world again. And through working there with some great colleagues and with some great clients, banks, insurance companies, investment houses, that's where I first learned about finance. That's what first piqued my interest. I was on the research team, so it was my job to go into government data sources, to do consumer research surveys and crunch numbers and create, like a lot of the stuff you see in newspapers, you think you're reading a news article. It's a PR story that's been paid for by a company.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so if you see a news article that says a study conducted by brand X, they have commissioned a research company to do a survey. They've gotten a bunch of stats and data back, and they've worked with a PR company or a market research company or a mixture of the two to turn that into a press release or into a piece of, well, now today it's like content sometimes, to get you to want to read that article or to click on that article or to watch that piece of content. And sometimes it's done in a way to get you to read it. So it's either has shock value, or if it's timely, or it's topical, or if it's of human interest. And sometimes it's actually genuinely really important stuff. But the point is that someone has funded that piece of information you're reading. It's not just ended up there organically. If you work on the news desk of a major publication, you don't have time to go through this study and that study, this and that study. Your inbox will be flooded with press releases. and you go through them and you go, okay, I'm writing an article, so I want to take this statistic from here, I want to take that study from there, and that's going to inform my piece. So I would do studies, and then the next day I would see the stats that I'd worked on in Microsoft Excel in the Daily Telegraph. Or I would see infographics that I'd made in the Financial Times. They're still online now. So when people see what I'm doing, look at the camera, people see what I'm doing now, it's not really an accident. I've been doing this for a very long time. I am a legit researcher in finance. I've been doing this for ages, like a decade now.
Bro, isn't that scary though? I'll tell you what I mean. that sounds scary to me because people put out stats. Okay, so let's use my household. I'm not going to talk about anyone else's household. I'm going to talk about my household during COVID. I was the conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Right? You had, the mother-in-law, the missus, all of that. And listen, there was obviously fear whipped up. We've got a new baby at the time, pregnant missus, and all this sort of stuff. And, this stat will come out. And I'll be quoting my own stat from like a podcast I watched or something. And they have their own stats. And it's like... Do you see what I mean? So whoever narrative it is, obviously you're a great guy, so that's cool. You're creating the stats, but you could also be some evil genius. You create a stat and they use it the same way.
So how to read statistics, how to read media, because I'm part of the media too. I'm part of what's called new media. I'm a financial content creator. There's a few ways that you can arm yourself so that it's not scary, to use your word. First thing is, you never ever take information from one data source if you can. So if this person's saying this thing, or this company is saying this thing, you try and look for another data source. And if you really want to take a critical eye, you look at the person who's saying the complete opposite of what that person is saying, and you take the two together and then you form your own opinion. That's the first thing. The second thing is you always read the small print. So when you watch the Pantene commercials and it's just like 70% of our, I didn't mean to at Pantene, but 70% of our customers think our shampoo is the greatest. Well, there's a bunch of small print at the bottom of the screen. If you pause it, you can actually look and see how many people did that study. Is it 30 people? Is it 50 people? Is it 100 people? Because do you notice that whenever you read the nationally representative studies, you're like, yeah, no one asked me. Everyone in the UK thinks this, but I don't remember answering that study. That's because you only need to get 2,000 people to answer something in order for it to be nationally representative. So it's about reading the small print. When was the study done? If a study is older than 6 months, particularly these kind of consumer researchy things, then they're probably out of date because time moves on, attitudes move on. But the bigger the base, that's the number of people you're speaking to, and the more rigorous the study, the longer the shelf life. So for something like the census, which is done once every 10 years, we'll be referring to the 2021 census until 2031. But that's because it's done with people all over the country. The third thing that I'll say is just know that we live in capitalism, and so like everything is funded. From the stats
you're reading, hope here, bro.
The timeline that we're living in now means that everything from the food that you buy in the supermarket to the stats that you read in the newspaper to the medicine that you take when you're sick, someone has had to pay for it to enable it to end up on the supermarket shelf, in the newspaper, or on your table. So there's always going to be an edge. There's always going to be agenda. But some people's agendas are for good, and some people are just trying to pull the wool over your eyes. So you just need to know that is always there. Maybe one day we'll come up with a way. So I'm going to get like super abstract here. Maybe one day we'll come up with a way of allocating resources and incentivizing people that doesn't require money. Money hasn't been around forever. It's only 5,000 years old. If everyone loved and trusted each other, then we wouldn't need money because you would just transact. We make non-financial transactions with people we love, know, and care about all the time. Imagine like going to your mum's house and then she sends you an invoice, like that's for dinner. Like that doesn't happen. But that's what you do whenever you invoice another human being. You're asking a complete stranger for money. So this is the way stuff is organized now, but it doesn't have to be that way. There are other ways of organizing society.
Well, Yeah, very true. I concur. But okay, cool. So you got into this world. You kind of stumbled onto it. Well, not stumbled. This was a strategic path for you based on the grades that you came out of uni with, right? But now you're doing this. You're doing the statistics. I almost kind of feel like you kind of weirdly enjoy that stuff.
I do.
Yeah. I can sense that.
I
Right?
think that everyone, I'll just make this a quick point, everyone at school should do a course in public relations. Because the media, that I'm also a part of, by the way, has such a sway over the national conversation and the things that we believe and consider to be true or not. So you should learn how that stuff works. So next time you see something on TV, you don't go, oh yeah, that person said it, so it's true. Like, you should know where that came from.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So, kind of getting into this, how did what emotions did that evoke in you when you're seeing your statistics being posted on all of these news outlets?
So, bunch of different thoughts. Obviously, wow, this is really cool. My work is like making it out there, particularly the design work, because I enjoy doing it. But also, wow, is this where this come from? And the analogy I'll use is, I love fried chicken, right? But I probably don't want to work for a takeaway shop that does fried chicken, because I might find out some stuff that makes me not want to eat it anymore. It was that kind of thing. It was like, now I know where this comes from. I'm not sure I'm going to believe like 90% of the stuff that I see anymore. Or no, not believe. That's too strong. But I'm going to take a critical eye on the information that I'm taking in. And that's not specific to PR. Like, everyone knows the industry they're a part of, the inner workings and its limitations. I'm sure that's the case in the medical field. I'm sure that's the case for TV. I remember when, like, the couple of times I've done news interviews, I've always been very surprised to see like how much just isn't there. It's just like, what? This is just one big green screen. Yeah. So there was a bit of that, but I also knew that I was learning an important skill. And I didn't know what I was going to use that skill for, but I knew that I was learning something that was going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, you touch on the fact that we all have this in, it doesn't matter what industry you work in. So, for example, come from this, I don't want to say I've come from the background of coaching and mentoring, but I have worked with an organization for, 2-year period. So I know about this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All of this sort of stuff. So I understand that, but that's just so that industry you're talking about just has so much more sway on the whole public perception that it's actually dangerous.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
whenever I see a big news story come out of nowhere and it dominates the headlines, my immediate thought is, so what don't they want us to hear about? Like, what's actually happening? Because this not very important thing just seems to be holding. It's people. Yeah. Like, it's just people at the end of the day.
Yep, 100%. Like George Osborne getting orange paper thrown at him, and this was news. And like, who cares?
Yeah,
he didn't even stain his. It was paper. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's really weird. Okay, cool. So you're in this. Your perception starts to switch, right? I would imagine if this was me, people call me a conspiracy theorist at the best of times. I can't imagine what I'd be like when I'm in that environment thinking, holy crap, this is how they're coming up with this stuff?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So go ahead.
But the thing is, with the UK, and I can only really speak about the UK because this is the country I grew up in, this is where I'm from. The UK is actually quite transparent in a way, in the sense of a lot of the information is out there if you can take the time to read the report. So don't read the headline, read the report that the headline is based off. Don't just read the statistic, read the small print underneath the statistic. All the information is out there. It's just that there is so much, it's difficult to be able to cut through the noise, and there's so much stuff competing for your attention. So why are you going to sit down and read a 50-page report when you can just scroll on Instagram or on TikTok a bit more, kind of thing? But if you want to dig deep, the information is out there. During COVID, I was able to say at the very, very early start, this ain't going to be no 2-3 month thing. I'm buying all the toilet paper now. Like we're locking
You
down.
were that guy, bro.
Yeah.
You're the one that made us run.
I was the one that was running out the toilet paper because I read the UCL study and I read the projections and I was like, okay, they think this is what the government policy is being based off. They are worried that millions and millions of people are going to die. So we ain't going outside. You best be happy with your 1 hour sponsored exercise, government sponsored exercise, and that's it. But if you didn't read the study and you were just reading newspapers and watching the TV, then you'd be blindsided.
So, bro, first of all, who's Mr. MoneyJar and how did all that begin?
Yeah. Mr. MoneyJar is my business and I am a financial educator first and foremost. And it took me a while to get to this point, but I'm in the business of giving people nets and not fish. So I want people to understand the basics of finance, how it works. I will speak to them in a way that they understand, in a way that's fun and that's accessible, so that they can hopefully solve for money so that they can live their best life. So I want to give people the meat, like the actual, like how do systems work? Here's the data, here's the study behind this. That's where all of that comes from. Because people are very smart, people are very intelligent, they're very sophisticated. And once they have the information that they need, they are able to make informed decisions about themselves. But I also think that Mr. MoneyJar is an idea, which is, you know, I've had 2 or 3 jobs. I've been promoted twice. I didn't do very well in the corporate world. The most I ever earned was £34,000. I must have been a nightmare to work for, to manage as well, because I always want to do everything. I'm working for a PR company. I'm like, no, I want to be a graphic designer and stuff. It's like, yeah, but we do PR here. Like, go work for a graphic design company if you want to do that. So I took the decision to leave my job and start a business of my own. And I invested in myself very heavily, and I continue to do so because I didn't know what would happen. Obviously, no one does, but I had a sense that if I just bet on myself and I increase my knowledge, that I could make a living out of sharing that information with other people. So it's just an idea to say that, look, if you're in a job that you're not happy with, if you feel stuck in a rut in life, this capitalist culture that we live in does have a tendency to make people feel like they are a small cog in a massive machine. And what I want to say to people is that you are valuable. You are more than capable of creating products and services that people will be willing to pay for and buy and make the world a better place by doing that. You don't have to accept the situation that you're in. Now, this change isn't going to come overnight. I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I've still got room to go. But everyone is valuable. Everyone has a skill, which if they made it publicly available, people are willing to pay for it. Why? Because we all spend money on crap every day. We all spend our money on items of clothing that we wear once. Or we drink alcohol and then it's through our bodies and it's done. So more so you, if you create something valuable for people.
That's powerful. Listen, the Need to Succeed podcast, you know, that's what it's all about. I'm obviously in the property space, but my drive is, you know, for all of this is about motivation, inspiration, and just making people know what is possible, right? Yeah. You don't have to settle for where you are right now. If you want to change, you can create that change that you want. But at the same time, bro, listen, going to work, 9 o'clock, I clock in, 5 o'clock, I clock out. At the end of the month, I'm getting my money.
No, the income is income.
Yeah.
Income is income.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm getting my money. I'm like, this is happening, right?
Yeah.
And how do I get that confidence? How did you, especially with what you're doing, there's so many intangibles. Okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to record myself teaching people how to be better at that. What the hell am I going to make on money out of this?
Yeah.
Like, what you know what I'm saying? So how do you get that confidence to make a decision like that?
Yeah. Well, a bit of it is faith and self-belief. No one knows where stuff is going to go, definitely. But you can look at things and join the dots. Or, well, that's what I do. I look at things and I make educated guesses. And a lot of times those guesses come true. Sometimes they don't, but you just have a hypothesis and you test it. And the hypothesis I had, and not just me, because there are lots of us that do this financial content creation thing, back in 2018, 2019, was that, hey, a lot of financial information online is very complicated and a lot of it is in dollars. So if I just did the UK version of that, then there'll be this whole ecosystem of creators and brands and social platforms I'll be able to do this on. That wasn't necessarily going to be the case, and it didn't manifest in the way completely that I thought it did, but I was at least partially right. And you just build and then you tweak as you go. I have hypotheses now about the way the world is going to go in the future, and I'm making decisions based on those hypotheses now.
Wow, bro, that's so powerful. I hope everyone's listening to that, right? It's about looking at, you don't even have to be creative in this day. I'm not saying you're not creative. Of course, you're very, very creative. I see your content are very creative. But what I mean about is in the ideas, people always looking for this new golden nugget idea. But you can look sideways, right? Instead of looking for these new things.
Yeah,
okay.
Or just iterate.
Yeah,
Do
iterate.
what's being done now for a different audience or just slightly better.
100%. What's someone else already doing that has an audience that I can do a little bit differently, right? And target a different set of people. And I know it already works. So now I just got to implement my own strategy with my own personality with this message I know already works. And bang, there's your market, right?
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. Just as an example, Threads has just come out. There's a new social platform out.
No, bro, there's taking it to another level. And this Threads is like, bro, what? Like, how can they get away with this stuff?
Oh, right. Like the copying.
Yeah, the copying.
So, yeah, I mean, when I was at school, copying people's homework was called plagiarism, and you got in detention for that. But in business, it's called innovation. So here's what I think is happening with Meta. Well, not what I think. It was actually confirmed to me by an article I read this morning in the FT. 2 years ago, Meta says that Instagram is no longer a square photo sharing platform. They bring out Reels, replicating what was happening on TikTok. Then 2 years later, they learned a new way to share content via text. I'm like, hold on, that doesn't add up. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has limited tweet counts from unlimited to 300 for non-registered users or something like 600 for registered users that don't have Twitter Blue. Why? Because people that are trying to build AI tools are scraping the vast amounts of text on Twitter, and they're doing it on Reddit too, to train their large language models. So, of course, if you're Meta, you're going to launch your own text product to train your own competitor to ChatGPT and Google's Bard. And I read on the FT today that Meta is planning to do just that, launch their own AI platform.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And I mean, it won't just be powered by Threads. They obviously have Facebook and WhatsApp and all these other properties. But Mark Zuckerberg is legit one of the most powerful people on the planet. He should be paying us for our data, but he just gives us the promise of dopamine, more followers, more likes. And we all go to these platforms. We give him the data he needs, and then he uses it to create more products. It's quite astounding.
Facts. You can't knock the hustle.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't knock the hustle. But yeah, it's genuinely crazy what happened with Threads. I mean, listen, I think the point you were going to make is the fact that there's now a new platform. Everyone's got equal playing field. Like,
yeah. So if you, well remembered. Yeah. So it's just a small point, but Threads is new. If you found a way to create high engagement content or high engagement content formats on Threads within your niche, any niche, cooking, money, fashion, whatever, then brands will probably want to work with you, and you'll probably succeed because it's just a new playing field. But it doesn't need to just be on new stuff. You can go back to existing platforms and do something slightly differently. Thanks to the internet, the audience is potentially everyone on the planet. So as long as you capture a percentage of that, you'll have an audience who will want to watch, listen to, read your stuff. It's quite cool.
It is really cool. Really, really, really cool. But yeah, honestly, some of the stuff that I've seen you doing in terms of, the brands that you're affiliated with, and it's really, really encouraging. So for people out there who are, perhaps a little bit apprehensive of jumping in or doing something, just to say, okay, cool, this is where this guy come from. He just decided one day, you know what? If I decide I want to do PR and be a graphic designer, no one should be telling me no. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to tell me no, then I'm going to go do my own thing and have my own creative freedom. And from that decision, investing in yourself, and now, look at the things that you're able to do, right? Like it's genuinely incredible.
Investing in yourself is super, super important. You'll go to talks or you'll read books and they'll say, you are your greatest asset. You should invest in yourself. And for a long time, that went completely over my head. I didn't actually understand. I didn't fully deep what that meant. But all we're saying when we say invest in yourself is, particularly if you're young, the biggest asset you have is time, like a lifespan, within which you will probably earn hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds, or whatever currency your country is denominated in. And you can make yourself into the sort of person that people want to pay money to. That's what that means. You don't just need to settle for, the bog standard. You can actually become a very specialized, well-paid individual that either knows a language, knows how to code, knows graphic design, knows how to speak publicly. I've spoken a lot about how I've invested into myself via public speaking. You can become one of those people and people will want to pay you. Invest in yourself. Once you get your income up, you can then keep that money, because they say it's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. You can then keep that income by putting it into financial assets, into property, into that sort of thing. But the thing that you can always do is increase the amount of value you offer to the market so that people will be prepared to pay you.
Wow. Bro, if that's the only thing that people take away from this, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right, because that is very, very powerful. Like, investing in yourself, you are your greatest asset.
And where do you start? Start with what you love. I'm a big believer in doing what you love. I think that you should love what you do. You should find it fun. If you find it fun, you're way more likely to want to keep doing it, even when it's hard. And the more you do something, the better you become. The better you become. If you're in the top 10% of anything on the planet right now, you're probably eating well.
You're laughing.
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
2%. Like 10% right now is such a big scale that if you're in that number, you are doing good. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's not that many people who are willing to actually do what it takes to have the sort of life that they want. Unfortunately, because the truth is, a vast percentage of the population can do it. Like, it's crazy to just take what you know, what you truly believe, and just push it into someone else and say, I promise you, this is possible, right? But it is possible. But the fact that 95% of people are unwilling to do it, just makes it a lot easier for you. All you've just got to do is push through, and you can make it happen.
Yeah. And then the weird thing is that when you're earning less money for what you're doing, there's a lot more competition because there are way more people going for that. But if you become the top, I don't know, vegan chef in the country or something, top 10% vegan chef, there's like way less competition. There's way less people doing that. So when you are hired to do something, you'll probably be paid quite a lot of money,
100%.
whether it's to do a TV show or a talk or to write a book or something, because you will be that person. And the dynamic that's happening here is that in this global village that we live in, there aren't enough hours in the day to be awesome at everything. People are actually incredibly time poor. You kind of only really get to specialize in a few things over the course of your life. So if you can be the go-to person for that thing, people be like, fine, I'm being awesome with regards to this thing over here. I know that person is like the fashion person, that person's the fitness person, that person's the doctor or whatever. I'll let them be awesome at that. And then if I want to book them, if I want to hire them, if I want to work with them, then I'll pay them their due amount. So I think the future is bright. I think what I'll also say is just ignore fear as well. I know fear is a very real emotion that we feel, and it can be very paralyzing. But what I realized about fear, and this is talking about someone who's done stand-up comedy in front of a pub full of complete strangers.
Have you?
Yeah. I won a teeny tiny trophy.
You won a trophy as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is fear exists to stop you from dying or getting really badly hurt or really badly hurting someone else. So If there is something that you want to do, but you're scared, then you have to do it anyway. You just have to push through, because all the greatness is on the other side of that scary thing, if it doesn't kill you.
Wow. I think that's a good place to leave it. I think that is very, 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 very powerful. I say that quote all the time. And I think if people can go through that, because it is on the other side, because many people are going to face it and they're going to stop. No, I can't. But that means on the other side, there's very few. So if you can just push through that and you get to that other side, damn, life's good.
That's
Do you know what I mean? Things are
great.
good. So just push through that, right? That's great, bro. Honestly, this is flown. Can't believe the time. It's gone really quickly. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, great conversation.
Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, man. But I told you there was 2 questions. We've done the first one at the start, and now we're in the end. Because, bro, you've done so much. Like, just understanding a little bit more about your journey now, it's incredible. And I don't know what the goals and all of these extra things are for Mr. MoneyJar, but you've gone out there. You've had this vision, and you've gone out there and you've implemented. Do you know what I'm saying? And now you are a figure when it comes to financial money matters. You got TV channels calling you, bro. That's a, do you know what I'm saying? That's a big thing. So that's incredible. So the final question is, what remains your need to succeed?
Like, what more do I want to do?
Absolutely.
I was asked this question at the talk I gave earlier, and I'll give a similar answer. So my overall aim when building is I want the Mr. MoneyJar brand to become synonymous with financial education in this country. So maybe in the same way that we think of Jamie Oliver when we think about reforms to healthy eating in schools, I want to do that, but within the realm of financial education. I want to reach as many people as possible, but I'm particularly focused on the next generation as well. I have a brother who's 17 years old, and I don't want him to go to university and spend his whole time there in his overdraft like I did. I want him to have a good future. The amazing things about young people, you said you have a new baby, right?
Yeah, she's going to be 2 soon.
Your 2-year-old is going to live into the 22nd century.
Wow.
Goodness knows what iPhone is going to be out then, So it's about...
If iPhone is going to be even...
Yeah. And maybe it's just holograms or whatever. So I really want, in particular, that generation of people to live a good life. So what does that look like in practice? Well, obviously a big part of that is going to be content, but Mr. MoneyJar, TV appearances, merchandise, board games, books, anything and everything that enables people to learn about money and makes it accessible to them. If you put the Mr. MoneyJar logo on it, I want people to be like, yeah, that is a high quality, credible product. I'm going to buy that for my kids. I'm going to buy that for my mum. I'm going to watch that. That's what I'm building.
Wow. That's powerful, bro. That's a massive vision. And I think it's going to happen. There's no part of me looking at that and I'm like, this guy is going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Amazing, bro. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you very much.